Thank you. Yeah. So if you could start off by telling us a little bit about your story and how Souljourn, am I saying that correctly? Souljourn.
Yeah, so it's a play off the word sojourn. So to have an extended travel or time away from your home. So how that came to be into fruition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, about how it came into fruition and a bit about your story in general. Yeah.
So I am originally from LA, from California, and I grew up with yoga. My mom was a very avid practitioner, and especially post my parents' divorce, it was an activity that my mom and I would do together. So it was a time and a place for us to bond and to have time to be free and explore and play. And so from a very early age, I was always exposed to yoga, and it was integrated, and I even was able to drop out of PE and did yoga instead as like an extracurricular activity. So I guess from growing up with it, and especially at university, it became very grounding for me to have a practice. And then I ended up moving abroad, and I lived in Southeast Asia as a journalist. And when I came back to New York and was freelancing and teaching yoga, I saw a big disconnect between the women and young girls abroad, and then the women in the classes as well. In that there was this level of anonymity, in that you don't know the person's story who's next to you, just like when you're traveling, especially in lesser economically developed countries, you don't know necessarily the people's stories who you're engaging with. And so I wanted to take yoga out of the studio and into the world and use it as a platform for social activism and women's empowerment. And so I thought the best way to do that was to combine my three passions of yoga, travel, and feminism, and be able to create something in which someone in New York, someone in London could have the opportunity to go to a place in which yoga retreats aren't traditionally held, a place like Cambodia or Rwanda, especially places that are post-conflict, and then be able to have that connection of women on the ground. So what we do is we host global retreats all over the world. We include a $300 to $500 tax-deductible donation that goes to our partner organization. So this is an organization or an NGO in the country that we're visiting. So it's more of a cultural immersion as opposed to a retreat. And we've done 13 so far. This is the fourth year that we've done Peru. So they're currently there now, and they were just spending time with the Sacred Valley Project. And I'll be leaving in 8 days to go to Rwanda, and I'm leading our first teacher training. So it's an on-the-ground immersion with 9 of the facilitators and staff of Chimera, which is our partner organization out in Rwanda. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's really cool. And just for someone like thinking about the Souljourn yoga as a concept, how, for example, would a retreat work? How does it work for someone who's coming along?
So for me, yoga is this idea of union. So it doesn't matter if you've done yoga for 1 day or 100 days or, a lifetime. To me, if you show up for one class or you show up for all, it's not what that's about. It's about this idea of connectivity and being able to explore and travel to different places and be able to engage with these young women and girls, and also open up your mind and hopefully hearts to why it's so important and so vital to support girls' education. So every country is a little bit different in that we don't try to mirror the same experience. So Cambodia is our most volunteer-heavy program, in that you are volunteering 6 times with the Panhiri Lee Foundation, so either at the school or at the girls' dorm. Whereas other ones, such as our Morocco retreat with EFA, there's one opportunity to make lunch with them. And we really like it for the participants to have some initiative if they want to bring anything to the table or any offering. So this past year, one of the women who came is a textile designer. And so she did this absolutely incredible natural dye workshop. And so all the girls collected onion skins for about a month prior. And then Erica did this fundraising campaign to get tote bags or book bags for the girls. And so it was like tie-dyeing. So they had, the huge pot out, and they put, the onion skins in, and then while the bags were soaking, that's when they did their yoga practice on the roof. But we like people to have the experience of going a little bit deeper in terms of being able, I keep saying the word connect, but in terms of being able to connect with the country, the community that we're visiting with.
Cool. Yeah. So it's about developing like you say, a connection more with the people involved, essentially, and doing what you can to help. So for yourself, why do you feel that girls' education is such an important issue?
So for me personally, I didn't have to struggle with education. I think a lot of us in the West take our education for granted, and that it's handed to us and it's just expected to attend and to get good marks. And so having that opportunity and essentially winning the lottery of life, I feel like it's my path to ensure that education is available to young women and girls who were born under different circumstances. One statistic says there's currently 130 million women out of school around the world. I think that's an underestimate. I believe it's far more than that. It's absolutely imperative for changing the world and truly creating a spirit of equality is you have to empower 50% of the population. And when that 50% is disenfranchised, well, then that's not, equality. One of my favorite expressions is women's rights are human's rights. And I think that now more so than ever, it's time that men also get involved with the conversation just to ensure that we can continue to thrive as the human race can.
Sure, yeah. And you mentioned that it's kind of your, it's your path essentially. So what would you say is the main kind of driving force behind what it is that you do? Why have you chosen this path?
I've always considered myself to be a feminist. Like even when I was really, really, really little, maybe 7 or 8, and learning about it in school in the U.S. in terms of the 1920s and the women getting the right to vote, and then the second wave in the 60s and 70s with women's liberation, post feminine mystique and Betty Friedan. And I've always wanted to use my voice in terms of highlighting or bringing to light injustices. So for me, it's girls' education. My mom, for instance, has a dog sanctuary in California. So her passion is animal activism and animal rights. I think if you have the opportunity and if you have the ability to be able to care about something outside of your own periphery. And when I say opportunity, it's that idea that if your food is taken care of and your shelter is taken care of and your safety is taken care of, and essentially your basic needs, which most of us probably, watching and engaging with this, have that covered, and you have the ability to then care for something that's maybe a little bit bigger or maybe something that's intangible. I think that's the biggest practice in terms of expanding our own compassion.
Sure. And you mentioned that obviously you grew up in LA and there's a big yoga scene over there. How would you say it helped you personally in your own life?
So the interesting thing about the yoga practice is that you could be in a room full of, 50, 100 people, but yet it's still an individual experience and that you have your mat. And with that being said, it can also be very isolating because there's that level of anonymity and that you don't know who's practicing next to you. So I think for me, having both of that, so that time for individual self-expression and exploration, and then juxtaposed to this idea of community or sangha and being able to actually engage with the people who are like-minded and that they've decided to take 60, 90 minutes out of their day for a practice. And the fact that it's even called a practice and that there's no perfecting it, it's constantly regressing and progressing and evolving and just changing with, the day to day. It's given me a constant. And it's also taught me a lot about forgiveness in the sense of, yes, being accountable, but also being able to surrender that, not everything is going to go your way and being able to kind of find the silver lining in that.
And there obviously these days there seems to be quite a lot of focus and attention on mental health, and I think it's something that's obviously going to be looked into more over the coming years. But how important a role do you think something like yoga can play in helping with mental health issues?
I think for me, it's been absolutely amazing for my own mental health and my own, well-being, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the physical yoga practice. The physicality of yoga is only one of the 8 limbs in regards to yogic philosophy. It could be karma yoga, which is service. It could be having a meditation practice. There's different ways to find this idea of union or yoking, which is the word yuj, in which yoga is derived from. And so for different people, I think it's a matter of finding what works for them. It's not a, one size fits all kind of model. But I think if you're open to it, absolutely, try a yoga class and try many, because there's a different teacher for everyone as well.
Sure, yeah. And I'm always interested in, the story behind organizations such as yours. How many years has Souljourn Yoga been going now?
So we officially launched in January 2016.
Cool.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So just over 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest challenge you faced since founding it?
There's been a few. I would say one of the biggest ones has been knowing when to kind of put the brakes on something, and that I'm someone who thinks, 24 hours in a day isn't enough. And so since I'm executive director and founder, most of it, falls on my shoulders in terms of projects being executed or, programs happening or partnerships being created. And so I've had to kind of take a step back and know that every year is a little bit different in terms of, not only where I am, but also like where the foundation is, and just being more aware and more conscious when planning retreats with, the calendar year.
Sure, yeah. And where's the best place for someone who is interested in getting involved? Where's the best place for them to kind of make first contact?
You can go to our website at Souljourn Yoga, so SOULJOURN yoga.com. And if someone is a yoga teacher and interested in leading a donation class, they can email us straight from the site. If someone wants to do a bake sale or a dinner or have any other ideas to get engaged, I'm always excited about that. As I said, there's many passions that can kind of fall under this umbrella. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical yoga class. Or if someone wants to come on a retreat, we are currently booking for Cambodia and Cape Town for next year.
Nice, very cool. And just one last question, which I'm actually asking everyone that I interview for Human Window. If you could go back and give yourself some advice, so basically, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self if you could go back knowing what you know now?
Not to take life so seriously.
Nice and simple. I like it.
Yeah.
Cool. That's perfect. Thanks so much for your time, Jordan. It was great to chat to you.
Much. Nice to chat to you too.